My name is Davina Ware with The Complete Leader, and we're here with another episode of Ask a Coach. This is where you, our community, ask burning questions about career, work environment, and leadership from our expert faculty. Today, we have with us Mindy Bortness. Hi, Mindy. Glad to have you with us today.
Hi, Davina. Great to be here.
We're so excited to get your feedback on these burning questions. So, Mindy specializes in reducing turnover, increasing engagement, communication skills, and leadership. So, we received this question from our community, and Mindy will be giving her expert advice and feedback on the scenario. So, this is what we have. I have an employee who is incredibly smart and has a lot of potential. We've promoted him to a project manager position, but I'm afraid we've done so prematurely. He seems to be struggling to understand how to put together a timeline, stick to a budget, and manage all of the activities that need to get done. The past few projects he's handled has gone way over budget. We've had a few senior people from our office try to mentor him, but it hasn't worked. He's great at giving the answers they want to hear, but his behavior doesn't change. We definitely want to keep him on board, but now I'm unsure what to do. So we have a leader in distress here. So, Mindy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Great question, and likely pretty more common than we would think. Um, First of all, I'd be really grateful that I've got a star performer, right? I've got a high potential, and so I could see the enthusiasm of them promoting somebody perhaps ahead of his or her time. It sounds like they're already starting to identify where he's missing the mark. Some of the soft skills you mentioned that are missing. Also sounds like they've got more than one person trying to bring him along, so that can be a little bit confusing. I think where I would start is with this person writing in. So sort of the adage of you fail the teacher, not the student. I feel like that there's some personal accountability, which they're talking about is I think maybe we promoted him too quickly, but they do want to keep him in that role. So I might start with a conversation with that leader, and perhaps this employee to talk about, hey, we kind of jumped the gun. We want to keep you in place. Life is good, but we maybe want to build some structure around teaching you to lead. When I think about the leader's perspective, I would work with that leader on, breaking things into 4 stages, right? So from the leader looking at their new emerging leader, it's my responsibility to teach you and train you. Secondly, help you be on your own while I cheerlead and encourage you. Thirdly, help you correct course because now you're in the role. We're seeing some of the hits and some of the gaps. Sounds a little bit like where they are right now. I might assess at that point, do some soft skill assessments to find out. It sounds like this guy might need some help in planning and follow through and build some individual development around those soft skills. And then my fourth role in mentoring somebody up would be, now my expectation is you've got this, right? So teach you and train you. You're on your own and I'm cheerleading, then correcting course and anything that seems to be falling short or having a gap, and then saying, hey, I know you've got this. So, we can sort of let go there. That would be the first things coming to mind for coaching is focusing on that first person, the leader themselves. Secondly, it does sound like they've got a few senior leaders working, so I might narrow that down to one. So who really is going to be the best fit for this person to help them grow? That could be by communication style, right? Like birds of a feather. You've got this problem, I've got this problem, here's how I work through it. Could be opposites attract, where here's one way your approach might be a little bit different from people who work like me. So I might look at that and narrowing down the mentoring. And then the third thing that's coming to mind is, okay, now when I'm working with that person, sometimes we forget how awkward it can be a new leader, especially if they're promoted from within, which is a sweet goal to have. And so first we want to sort of coach to like, do you really want this? Right? I want this. It's my goal. This is my mission in life. I'm doing the hard work to prep for it. They may have shortened that a little bit in this scenario. Secondly, is that awkward stage of seeing yourself as a peer and then now moving to be a manager and then behaving accordingly and having your self image and yourself, how you show up, your self perception, be as that new leader to people who were your besties, right? People who were your peers. And then also, it sounds like this individual isn't necessarily seeking the mentoring. So we would want to work at that, like seek the mentoring before it becomes apparent to the mentors. And then, I've got this, right? So that would be the fourth stage there is I've got this, I can do it. So that kind of approaching from both sides of the leader and then the person in the role.
Excellent feedback. I love the 4-step approach because that gives the leader somewhere to start. Because it sounds like
Yeah.
this leader may feel a little bit overwhelmed and they don't have a starting point or a measuring point. How important is creating mutual milestones with the leader as well as with the employee, the project manager, important to this process in order to reduce conflict, in order to build trust and relationships, and then ultimately the goal of the success of this project manager?
Yeah, I love that. I think transparency, is a little word perhaps overused, but being honest and open and candid. I probably say candid in as a word I would use in those conversations, and allowing that person to make those mistakes and saying, "Hey, here's why we're correcting course," because you can make mistakes along the way. And we wouldn't know if we had those mistakes if we didn't have those milestones that you're talking about. So milestones are, goal setting is always very, very relevant and important, and to have that mutually agreed upon.
Very good. That makes perfect sense. And then the last thing I kind of want to add here is I'm thinking about the person who submitted this question. How would you encourage this leader who may be feeling pressure from senior leadership about this promotion of this employee? They may be feeling not just overwhelmed from the work that's not up to par, but being in meetings with senior leadership and say, hey, well, you hired this person. You've got to turn this around. I imagine there's some pressure there, some concern there, maybe some doubt. So from your perspective as an expert, how would you encourage them in this space, which will ultimately help them give better support to this employee?
Yeah, I think that goes back to that's a great question. It goes back to that personal accountability. If that senior leader is running so fast that things are rolling downhill and they're picking on that employee rather than like encouraging and building them up. So I think that's where the coaching comes in to start with ground one and like, hey, let's peel it back. You're already saying maybe you promoted him too soon. You're already saying you still want them in the role. You're already saying he's getting mentoring, but he's maybe not performing up to all those different voices. So that being out on the table, my encouragement is let's own that, right? Now we know. We know all that. So now we own it. We've got it. Let's take a breath and get in the same room, do a triad conversation with the coach and the manager and the new one, saying everybody own, let's peel it back, everybody own what they've got, and now how do we want to set forth, how do we want to go forward and go maybe through that process that I described earlier in the call.
That makes sense, and also helpful to note that sometimes we've got to bring in an expert, right?
Yeah.
Your expertise is in the technical work that you do and may not be in this space of mentoring, coaching, and conflict management. So having these conversations where it's the leader and the employee and the coach.
It doesn't have to be this long, drawn out program. You can bring people in to have their expertise in 1, 2, or 3 settings and sessions to get to course correct, if you will, and reset.
I like that idea to pivot, course correct, and ultimately bring about a win-win situation. That's what it sounds like. Well, this was excellent, Mindy. I'm sure the person that submitted this question can easily digest and apply your feedback. So thank you so much for being with us today for this episode of Ask a Coach. For those of you who have additional questions similar to this one about work, career, or leadership, feel free to email us at info@thecompleteleader.org to get responses from one of our expert faculty members. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next episode.